Framwellgate School, County Durham. Already near the top of local league tables, 2 years ago they seized on assessment for learning to boost results still further. They've done it by developing an in-house AFL style that challenges softer interpretations. County Advisor Ron Rooney.
OK, I've brought you to Fram School today because it's a high-attaining school. It does very well with a wide range of abilities that come into the school. It's made a commitment, as other schools have done in County Durham, to use assessment for learning to advance the pupils' attainment and their learning. But it's done it in a very methodical, systematic, well-planned way.
Well, not just a descriptive sentence.
So what does assessment for learning look like at Framwellgate? They invited us to film teacher Jane Hutchison with a top Year 10 English group.
As I looked on, the smoke consumed the boys like a blanket. So that gives this effect of a really smothering effect. And you've got some lovely alliteration there as well. So well done. OK, we'll use that later on as well. The screeching screams of comrades and friends alike pierced through ears like a piano out of tune. What writer's technique's been used there? Pierced through ears like a piano out of tune. Simile, OK? And that really effective alliteration at the beginning with the screeching screams as well. Lovely, we've got some lovely images here. What I want to do now, though, is move on to the actual grade descriptors. On the other side of the room, you have grade descriptor stations, OK?
She's focusing the lesson not just on their writing skills, but on how they'll be graded.
Now, you should be really thinking about B's, A's and A stars, but I've obviously put the D grade and C grade on there so you can kind of see what the lower levels are and the difference between the lower levels and the high. Remember, you're thinking about the differences between each grade, OK?
And be quite mature in the way that you write as well. It is their experiment as well.
Yeah. What about punctuation?
From the C grade, it was really basic ones like full stops and exclamation marks. Whereas instead you've moved on to colons and semicolons.
Excellent. And are you confident in using semicolons?
Yeah, I think so.
So A grade already then? We've just got to get to the A star next. So you're carefully crafting it, which is what you started to do with the B grade.
And it has a bigger effect on the reader as well when you choose certain words.
OK, excellent. Well done.
Could you be accused of just teaching to the exam, do you think?
No, definitely not. I mean, this is coursework based, which obviously eventually leads towards the exam, but I think these are skills that the students can use in every single lesson.
Usually when we've finished a piece of coursework and then we've done our assessment of our learning to see how well we did, then on the next piece we spend a whole lesson dedicated to looking at how we can do better.
Right, so what do you think you have to do to get yourself from that A to an A star then?
You have to show a real flair for English rather than just following the criteria. You've got to show that you're really interested and can write originally and use technique.
Right, so you thinking about your vocabulary that you use, would that be an area that you would like to focus on to get yourself to an A star?
Yeah, I think it's got to be more extensive than it was in an A. Right. Got to move up slightly more.
OK, can I ask you now to move back to your original desks, please? Sorry. Right, we're going to just very quickly want to review what you've learnt there. OK, let's have a look at the B grade then, because this is where I want you to be thinking about. How does the B grade differ? Rachel?
The B grade starts to structure the paragraphs and to structure the work, and and it shows that you've got impact on the audience because it mentions the way that you act towards the audience.
OK. How does A differ from B? Ruth?
It experiments. It doesn't just stick to what it knows. It tries different things, such as metaphors and similes, which you didn't have in the B grade.
Right, OK. So it uses far more writer's techniques. How are we all going to get A stars then? Jacqueline?
The vocabulary, as it says, it's sophisticated.
Yeah.
Uses words like highly and advanced, which means we know what we're talking about.
OK. And if you look at the range of literary devices as well, they're more advanced. Irony and ellipsis we're talking about for A star.
If we know what we have to do before we get it marked, then there's more chance to improve it later on. Because we can improve our writing before we've even started it.
We do all these things that you would think that the teachers keep between themselves, so we kind of get this insight that allows us, it's like knowing what goes on behind the scenes. We can, because we know
the boundaries and how far we can push them and what we can do to get the higher marks. We talk about it and we discuss it as a class, and so we all go away with the equal information that the teachers have.
If you don't share it with them, it's kind of keeping something back from them, and I think, you know, actually sharing it with them and being open with them encourages them to, you know, be much more confident in actually using assessment for learning as well. You need to get a balance with, you know, formative assessment and summative assessment. And we started really last year by forming a small task group to look at the area of assessment, and in particular assessment for learning. And you know, we did an audit of assessment for learning in school to see how many advances we'd made with assessment for learning. So I think we've come a long way in a short period of time.
Appropriately enough, school departments assess themselves for the audit, and the results are being compared. Ron's sitting in on the task group's meeting.
So if we can turn to item 2 on the agenda, and that's the Assessment for Learning School Audit. You should have a copy of that included with your agenda. I'm hoping that this will be of use to heads of departments, but also to us as the task group, in that this can help us to identify our strategic direction that we want to take. Any other points?
It's promoted discussion within departments. People are talking about it and discussing within their department meetings about assessment for learning, instead of it just happening in some pocketed areas.
But we have made substantial progress, and what's pleasing, Ron, is that this was actually identified in the Ofsted report.
Task Group Coordinator Jonathan Nola took a business-like approach.
The FES had identified assessment for learning as one of its key Stage 3 national strategies, along with ICT. Durham LEA had identified assessment for learning as a strategic priority, and that was embraced by Framwellgate School. We decided that we didn't just want to say to staff, assessment for learning is great. We very much stepped back, and we started as a task group with our research and our reading. So it was very much evidence-based rather than being based on a hunch.
Framwellgate's had good results for years. Why did they want to push them any harder? Head teacher Joan Cheval.
The raw result for the school was good, but the value added wasn't tremendously good. And for me, that's the important bit. It's about the progress the children make, whatever their attainment levels. We do have pockets of deprivation here, but we also have parents who are extremely articulate. So it means that we have to be sure of our ground. And saying to one of my most articulate parents who might phone me up and saying, well, why is my child not working through the exam syllabus to get through the exam and doing this stuff about target setting, then I need to be able to say more than, well, it's because it's good for them. I need to be able to cite the evidence and the research. It's factual, it's hard, it's there, and they can see the progress.
Our exam results have been exceptional this year. We have 77% of students have achieved 5 or more A-star to C grades, and it's placed us at the top of the county of Durham for value added. It's interesting that I surveyed heads of departments fairly recently through our audit to actually ask them, what impact has assessment for learning had on your child's learning in the classroom? And what they've fed back to me is that students themselves are now understanding the criteria. We're seeing Key Stage 3 results at a higher level than they've ever been at before. We're seeing A-level students producing more structured, more focused essays. So all the evidence is pointing towards it. It's coming through in the end product itself.
This idea of unpicking assessment criteria to boost performance is the basis of Lisa Ingleby's health and social care lesson. Year 12 are marking sample AS level papers.
Don't assume what I give you is the perfect answer. Don't take everything on here as if it is right. You've got to be critical. We're looking at misconception. We're focused on the positives, but we're unpicking what this candidate has said.
Rachel, anything in particular you want to home in on that?
Well, question D. It was poorly answered, and there wasn't any understanding in it. Like they didn't understand it, what social development was and what it meant. I've identified the question and what they did wrong about it so that I can revise from it.
That's really good. Yeah, excellent.
I think it's easier to judge someone else's paper than it is to judge your own, because you don't know how to, you don't want to say, oh, you're excellent or you did really bad. But it's easier when you've got someone else's paper, you can say, well, that's really good. and that's really poor because you're not judging yourself, you're judging somebody else. I think it's easier that way.
Judging. Well, I know I'm getting better grades now that I'm in A-level than I was in GCSE. I know that I'm getting better grades. I mean, we just peer-marked a paper in sociology and I got a really, really good grade in that and I was over the moon.
So would you say our average mark for that question was about 2? Yeah, I'll just grab my notes. This was awarded 3 marks. And it was awarded 3 marks purely on the definitions that was given. And that was stressed, that the candidate did not demonstrate the difference at all. And it was purely on the definitions. Now, I know you're probably looking at that and thinking, well, it's 4 marks. You know, but it's 4 marks on a question which is assessing basic principles. Basic principles which are underpinning all of one section of the syllabus which we have studied.
Doesn't this sort of obsession with levels take away from the actual teaching time?
Not if it's integrated into what you do and you look for natural links. I think if you make it look as if a bolt-on task, then yes, it will. So what we try to do is look for natural links with the subject area and the demands where it links in more naturally, rather than the students seeing it as 2 separate tasks that's actually integrated into their learning.
We could learn loads and loads of knowledge, but if we didn't know how to apply it, then we wouldn't get as many marks. And we don't just learn pre-learned answers. By marking it ourselves, we learn techniques for the real exam. So we're not just learning, going over the topic again, we're learning how to apply it to the question.
It links back to certainly my own experiences when I was at school and when I came into teaching. There was a degree of secrecy, I guess, around how work's marked, how it's assessed, what learning's involved. Very much a bit of a closet. What we've tried to do is blow that away. We've tried to basically open the door so that teachers can share with students how the standards, how the work is marked, the knowing and the recognising standards, the sharing of the level descriptors, involving the students in the target setting process as well has become very important.
In the old days, cramming for exams was cramming knowledge, getting knowledge into your brain, regurgitating that knowledge in an exam. What we're asking pupils to do now in Assessment for Learning is to look deeper than that. So on this question which is demanding knowledge, what sort of criteria is going to judge a good answer? And the pupil who is able to do that is, yes, we are asking them to go for better exam results, but it's not cramming in the old-fashioned way. What it's about is the student asking the question, what makes a good answer? What is it about that good answer that I really don't understand? And what am I going to do about it?
Cranwell Gates grabbed hold of AFL and made it work for them. But are results all that matter?
Because of the way that schools are assessed in the nation as a whole, standards can't be ignored. We are evaluated by the government. We are placed in a position where our grades of one school are compared with that of another school. No school in this country will look at a whole school initiative without grades and attainment, pupil attainment, being at the heart of that process. It is a worry, this focus on levels, the focus on grades, comparative evaluations, but that at the moment is the world that we live in.